Okay, I'm with Lindsay and we're recording. Lindsay is the pitch master. You are on episode 243. So we did your whole bio on episode 243. So I'm not going to make you recount that for us. Tell us, I am going to put you on the spot now. Tell us one interesting thing about you that people might not know by reading your bio.
Okay, I actually have one top of mind.
Nice. Way to go.
Okay, so I am a direct descendant of Sam Houston, who's considered the father of
No way. You're
Texas.
like
Yeah.
Texas royalty.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So
Man.
for those of you who aren't Texas history aficionados, he led the Texas Revolution. He was the commander in chief of the army. He won the Battle of San Jacinto against the Mexicans, which cemented Texas independence.
Yeah.
He was president of the Texas Republic twice. He was a senator from Texas, governor of Texas, and before that, he was governor of Tennessee. So he did a lot of things.
And he has a giant statue in Texas.
He does have a
There's a
giant
giant
statue.
statue of him. Yeah.
Yes. And March 2nd is Texas Independence Day when we declared independence from Mexico. And it is also happens to be Sam Houston's birthday. So,
Wow. Nice.
yes.
That's really cool. I didn't know you were a direct descendant of Sam Houston. We've talked about my family's all from Texas.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They're all still there. My parents were the only ones to move away from Texas, and they have been somewhat of the black sheeps ever since. They're, our Texas relatives are like, "Why'd you leave?"
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Well, I was the black sheep in my family who ran away to Hollywood. So, but I'm back
Mm,
now. So,
that's right. Came back to the homeland.
yeah.
Um, okay, so what we're gonna do is I reached out to the community and I said, "Hey, send us your pitches because you are the pitch master." Um, this is a service people can pay for, by the way. So I sent out to everybody, it's like, just go to Lindsay's website, thepitchmaster.com. So I sent these pitches out I sent out to the community, hey, everybody send us your pitches and we're going to talk about them. Um,
Yes.
and I promise to keep them anonymous. So no, I'm not leaving people's names out on purpose. I know I'm not leaving people's names out by accident. I told people we'd do that. So, and I sent them, I said, send them to me in two pieces. The like, you've got 1 minute on the elevator with me to tell me what it is, or like 1 minute at a cocktail party to tell me what it is. And then I'm interested, tell me more.
I
So each
love it.
pitch we're going to do in two pieces. Okay. You ready?
So, well,
Oh yeah,
before
go
we
for it.
start, I just want to chime in with one thing. Even though this is anonymous, it's really brave to send your work out for live evaluation on a podcast. So I want to say amazing, yay to everyone, and I hope you find it helpful.
Yeah, seriously. I'm super impressed that people did this. No, I am not that brave. My pitch isn't in here. Okay, so
Oh
well, that's
no!
also just because I talk about my crap all the time. Nobody wants to hear me talk about my crap. All right. So pitch number one. You ready?
Yes.
15-year-old Danny discovers that our sorry, 15-year-old Danny discovers our muse are real and his dad's been captured. He and his friends must find their way to the netherworld to free his dad's muse before they lose his dad's advance and their home.
Okay. Um, Say that one more time.
15-year-old Danny discovers that our muse are real and his dad's been captured. I'm going to read these as I'm going to try to read these as like heroic
The
voices I
movie
can. Yeah.
guy. Yeah, yeah.
He and his friends must find their way to the netherworld to free his dad's muse before they lose his dad's advance and their home.
Okay. First of all, super cool idea. I definitely want to read and or see this. I the reason I asked you to repeat it is it needs some adjusting to make it clearer. So I want to know like what kind of artist the dad is that he needs a muse. I'm
Mm,
guessing he's a writer because we say advance, but I'm not sure.
yeah.
And I want to know I don't know why the Goonies popped in my head. So the Goonies, they're about to lose their houses. That's the stakes. It's huge. So connect the loss of the advance to something emotional for the family.
Mm,
And I think that's going to make it come across more powerful. You always want in these cute snappy pitches. You got to grab your audience with emotion. And I
Mm,
got grabbed by the concept because I think that's super cool, but I want to know what the stakes are because going into the underworld is kind of a big deal. And so I want to know why the guys need to do it. I understand money is important, but you've got to connect the money to some emotional stake. So
nice.
clarify what the dad exactly, how the dad's muse helps him, because there's 7 muses, and so I mean his dad could be an interpretive dancer. I don't know. So
Yeah.
so that's my feedback for that. But I think if you add those stakes about why they need the money, you're going to get to your tell me more. Like,
Yeah.
do they, like with the Goonies, do they find the treasure and save the town? And
Yeah. I heard a really interesting quote from Jason Reitman. I've said this a couple times to dialoguers, but he was on, I can't remember whose podcast. He was on a podcast talking about writing the TV show the movie Saturday Night, and he was talking about advice his father gave him, which is we often confuse our emotional core and our setting. And we think our
mm,
setting is our emotional core, which is kind of what I hear you saying. Like, hey, there's an emotional core missing here. Like your setting's interesting, it's fascinating, but there's like an emotional punch missing. His example was 24 is not about terrorism. Terrorism is the setting. 24 is about a man trying to save his family in 24 hours. And
yes,
so, yeah, yeah, which
and that is true, and that's why the first season of that was the best.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But and so I feel like there's a little of what you're saying. Okay, I'm gonna read the tell me more. I'm gonna read
Okay.
it before
Yep.
I just keep lathering on. All right, tell me more. Danny, a son of a famous author who discovers our muses are real. They are jinn and come from a world called Netherworld. Danny's father cannot complete his last book in the trilogy, and their publisher is about to take back his father's advance. Danny and his friends must find a way to the Netherworld, enlist the help of his own fictional characters to find and rescue his dad's jinn. But getting to the Netherworld is just the beginning. An ancient evil threatens to destroy not only our world, not only their world, but ours as well.
Okay. All right. First of all, again, super cool. I love anything that's about fictional characters coming to life because that's like every reader and movie fan's dream, right? So love that. But it's a little bit of an info dump, and it's
Mm,
hard to resist as the creator because you love your story and you work so hard on it.
yeah.
But in a short pitch like this, you are not trying to tell everything. You want to tell just enough to get to the tell me more, which could mean send me your manuscript, pitch me the
Mm,
entire story for 3 hours, come meet with me, whatever it is. So I think this creator got a little hung up on his magic system and his sort of concept.
mm,
So think about because you've got 2 things at war here. You've got the muses are real and the fictional characters are real. And then you've got that they're jinn. So you don't need all 3 bits of information. So I would choose one of those to talk about in the tell me more. And
mm.
the one I would choose personally, now again, all this is feedback, but take it with a giant grain of salt because I get really excited about things in your story that you may not care about as much. But what I would focus on is because and the other thing you have is Danny and his friends. Okay, so I would focus on the trip to the underworld or the netherworld. Danny meets his own fictional characters and they team up to save his dad's muse and ultimately, dun dun dun, the world, right?
Yeah.
Because we find out the big cliffhanger here, which is great, is that the world, the well-being of our world is connected to the well-being of this other world.
Mm.
So that's what I would do personally.
Yeah. So I hear you saying there's like a lot happening in this one,
Yeah.
and you'd cut that back. For this one, why did you turn to like the Muse and his friends and not keep the Jinn part of it?
Because um the jinn is a little bit confusing because jinn is an Arabian Nights Islam thing, and
Hmm.
it's not connected to the muses, which are Greek and Roman.
Gotcha.
So my mythology nerd self got a little confused by that first. And second, I don't care what they're really called. You've already introduced them as muses, which is something we
Mm,
know. And I don't need to know, and this goes for anyone doing fantasy or science fiction. I don't need to know in this tell me more a bit the complete ins and outs of your magic system. I mean all the names and everything. I know they're cool. I know you worked hard on them, but you've got to remember that you've only got 5 minutes to get someone's attention, and
mm.
their story brain is going to be struggling to put all the pieces together with all this new vocabulary. So you really want to avoid that.
Nice. That's helpful. Okay, let's drive to another one. You ready
So
for
just,
number two?
well, let me just one more about that. So if
Yeah.
you think about something like the Hunger Games, if I was going to pitch the Hunger Games, I would talk about Katniss wanting to save her sister. I
Mm,
wouldn't go into the history of the Hunger Games and the president and the rebellion, all that. That's not the emotional core of the story. It's that this evil empire that's making kids fight to the death. Is she going to survive? That's what I
mm.
would focus on.
Gotcha.
So all that other stuff is super cool, but you want to hook people first before you get into the nitty gritty.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay.
Okay. Let's do it, everyone. Okay, you ready?
Yep.
1 minute pitch. Imagine a city where magic is outlawed, where being caught means death. That's Knoxville. A 16-year-old Calyx. They've spent their whole life hiding the fact that they have power transfiguration. They're supposed to be a future ruler, but when their magic starts slipping out of control, they turn to the only person who might help, Revan, a masked magician and outcast who secretly trains young magicians in the lower city. Revan doesn't just teach magic, they teach in survival and rebellion. And Calyx, their magic is different. While others cast illusions, their transformations are real, permanent, dangerous, and that makes them a threat. When the city enforcers close in, their best friend Dayan, who also happens to be a soldier, must turn Calyx in or betray everything he knows. Their confrontation ends in a desperate kiss and a devastating betrayal, and suddenly Calyx is on the run, dragging Dan and the rebels into Revan's enchanted house. One problem, the house doesn't move, it disappears. And when they step outside, Knoxville is gone. In its place, the ruins of Knoxville itself. Now stranded in the future, they don't understand. Calyx has to figure out what went wrong because magic was never the city's greatest threat. It was always Calyx.
Okay. So this is sort of the same thing again. It's a lot of information. So what I would do, what I would suggest this author do is kind of, I love all this. It's all really cool, but my brain is going to explode now because I'm trying to keep track of all of these, and I'm not saying this is bad, but these weird, unusual names. I've also got the weird grammar thing of the gender thing of a person being called a they, and I'm trying to follow that. And then I've got um, the setup of the city and magic is outlawed, and then the thing disappears, and then something else happens. So I would take a look at this and figure out again what's your oh, and there's a star-crossed lover thing in there too.
Mhm.
So take a look at this and also think about your story. What is that emotional core of your story? And it seems like it's Calyx's story. He's our vehicle character, right? So what is the uh, emotional thing that it's going to get your audience to connect with him? And retool this pitch to focus on that and save some of this other stuff for the tell me more.
Mm,
Or you can pare it down and still end with they or get dragged into the house. They step out and they're in the future,
mm.
and that's your cliffhanger to get to your tell me more.
That's interesting. So I'm hearing you say that like you want to zero in on Calyx's story and what they have to kind of the journey that the emotional journey they're going on, which feels like there's a thing about Calyx discovering their magic. There's a thing about Calyx being a star-crossed lover, and then there's a thing about Calix actually being a danger to the world they're in. And
Right.
that's kind of where you'd center
Yes.
the
So that,
pitch.
yeah. So that's two things too many. You have to pick one of those three.
Okay.
Um, because I understand you're going to have all those different subplots or aspects of your plot in your story,
Mm,
but it's too much for a pitch for someone who's never heard your story. It's not grounded in your universe.
mm,
If you were my best friend and you've been telling me about once a week about your work in progress, I could totally follow this. But the
yeah.
first time I'm hearing it, I'm like, there's like eight things going on here. And that's, again, for everyone listening, that is totally normal as a writer to start out this way with making your short pitch overloaded.
Mm,
It's in the film business, we have what's called a one pager, which is a one page synopsis slash pitch of your movie. And it's much harder to write than a screenplay.
mm,
So shorter doesn't necessarily mean easier. And this is a great way to start with too much because it's easier to pare down than stick stuff in.
mm. Interesting. Yeah.
And I like all three of those things. I'm a sucker for star-crossed lover.
Mm.
I'm a sucker for the chosen one is either going to save us or kill us all. And what was it, the third one? See, it's too many things. I can't keep them.
The third one is discovering the chosen one, discovering their magic.
Right. Okay.
That's the third one.
And I'm a sucker for that. I love all of those. So you
Yeah.
just pick one.
Yeah, it's interesting. And I'm curious as to where the story starts. Now that I'm reading it a second time to myself as we're sitting here, I'm curious, does it start in the future? Is this all backstory? I'm not sure. So that I kind of like you're saying there's a lot happening. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true too. To me, it almost seems like the future, what stepping out in the future is like your first act break,
Mm,
and then that's what it sounds like. So you've got some backstory and some world building in there. Um, so another thing is to everyone listening, you need less world building in your cocktail pitch than you think.
mm,
Because if you focus on your character's emotional journey and their emotional need and the stakes, the emotional stakes, you'll find that the other stuff will fall away and you won't
mm.
need it.
Okay, let me read the tell me more.
Okay.
This is a queer fantasy full of rebellion, found family, and magical house that travels through time and space. Themes and tropes of dark academia, magic schools, and slow burn rivals to lovers. It's got training sequences with grumpy mask mentor, a best friend, to enemies to lovers romance, and a protagonist discovering their non-binary identity through their magic. If you like books like House on the Cerulean Sea and the Circle of Magic series with Studio Ghibli movie vibes, then you'll like this story.
Okay. So Gold Star, I love all of that. My one I first of all, I'm a big trope person. I know some craft people get sick of tropes, but
I was going to ask you that. Do you put the tropes in your pitch?
um yeah, it all depends. I think this Tell Me More is great because
Hmm.
it's a total sales pitch, and I mean that in the best possible way. I know someone might say that's oogie feedback, but it's actually positive feedback because I hear this Tell Me More and I know immediately if this book is for me
Okay.
because you tell me all the things that if it was for me, I would love,
Hmm.
right? Um, and so the one thing that I like the first sentence.
This is
Can
a
you read
queer
that
fantasy
again?
full of rebellion, found family, a magical house that travels through time and space.
I that is genius. If you have to have a one sentence pitch, I would use that.
Hmm.
And I would consider putting that at the top of your first part of your pitch. I hear that I'm immediately grounded in what it is and what I'm listening to. And
Hmm.
I teach people to always say their format and their genre up front
Okay.
because it immediately helps people know what they're listening for. And it's easier to get to a no, which is just as important as a yes.
Hmm.
If I'm not interested in queer fantasy romance, it's nothing against the author or the idea or the work. It's just not for me. And then you
Yeah.
get to that no quicker. So then you can move on at your networking event or your your pitch fest and talk to someone who
Mm.
is looking for that exact thing.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
ideally if you're doing like a pitch fest with an agent, you'd know that before you sit down with them. Ideally.
yes,
Yeah.
ideally.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
if you're at a networking event, I mean, you just never know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Or I may say, I love queer fantasy. I mean, in the film business, what they say is, well, I love queer fantasy romance, but we're all full up. I've got 3 projects like that.
Hmm.
What I need is a regular hetero rom-com right now, right?
Yeah.
So it helps. But yes, that Tell Me More is amazing. I think tropes are great because especially for romance readers are very, very trope driven in the kinds of things they read.
Hmm.
But it just helps people know, oh, this is for me, this isn't for me, right?
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's funny you say that because I was at a book selling event this fall that I put on. It was called Books and Brews. It was at a bar, and I think we had 30 authors there at tables. They all had
It's
their
so
tables set up,
fun.
and they were like people were going around. There's a romance author specifically who had four like series on her table. And people would come up and she'd be like, all right, this series is small town romance. This series is enemies to lovers. This series is, and she just like hit the tropes. And I was shocked to watch romance readers go, oh, like I was surprised they totally knew them. Because at first she was doing that. I was like, authors know the tropes. Readers don't know the tropes. All of her readers knew the tropes. I had
Yeah.
no idea what I was talking about. Yeah. It's
Yeah,
really fascinating.
romance readers are all in on the tropes. And if you pay attention to marketing, you'll see that people use it in their ads and their marketing too. I mean, if I were her, I would have had cute signs above each stack of books. So I didn't have to say that 80 times too about what each
Oh,
thing
that's
was.
smart. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, So what I'm hearing you say for this one is the tell me more and the 1 minute might be flipped. You want the tell me more stuff first with maybe like a sentence about Kylex and then and the tropes and the like if you like the books like House on Cerulean and Circle of Magic. And then if they're like, oh, tell me more, then maybe hit the plot a little harder.
Yes. I think
Okay.
that's yes.
Nice.
And decide which emotional thing you're going to hit in your when you're doing your explaining a little bit more when you're actually telling your story, giving what I call your story appetizer, right? Just
Nice.
telling a little bit about it. So and then you might get a second tell me more and then you can go into more detail, right?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Okay, let's do you ready for another one?
Yep.
Okay. Here's the 1 minute. Have you ever seen or merely wondered whether good can rise from the ashes of evil? That love makes all possible, our hopes, our wishes, our dreams? Follow Anne, a nurse's aide in Beast Meets Beauty story, whose presence at a nursing home ignites embers of goodness lay dormant, throwing home into chaos, creating the possibility that home, the way it was, kind, loving, caring, can be revived, reborn. Home is capitalized, by the way, so it's a title.
Okay.
Yeah.
Home is that we think home is the title of the piece.
No, I think home is a specific place.
Ah,
It's
okay.
capitalized like it's a specific place. You want me to read it again with that knowledge?
Yes, please.
Okay. Because I was reading it and I was like, I'm the only one that knows this because I could see it on the page. Okay.
Which, hold on, before you start again, is a point because when you're talking to someone at a party or at an event, they're not going to know it's capitalized either. So
Yeah.
just something to keep
S-
in mind.
Super
Oh,
true.
okay, go on.
Okay. Have you ever seen or merely wondered whether good can rise from the ashes of evil? That love makes all possible, our hopes, our wishes, our dreams? Follow Anne, a nurse's aide in a Beast Meets Beauty story whose presence at a nursing home ignites embers of goodness lay dormant, throwing home into chaos, creating the possibility that home, the way it was, kind, loving, caring, can be revived, reborn.
Okay. All right. So I love opening with the question because that helps, that again makes people invested and they're like, oh, yeah, I have wondered that. So that great opening. Um, this is just a little piddly thing. Instead of follow, I would say meet Anne.
Hmm.
Um, it's just a format thing that people say they want you to meet your character, not follow them. And it also helps, makes people more invested, right? Because
Okay,
they're meeting them, they're not just following them along.
gotcha.
Um, and then here, okay, so I love all that. And the care home, I mean, I think that's really cool. Where I get a little lost is the second bit about home and the impact she has,
Hmm.
because you say it's a Beast meets Beauty story. Okay, so I know what that is.
I don't know what that
Um,
is, by the way. I don't know what a Beast Meets
well,
Beauty story is.
I don't know. I assumed it was a flip. It was just a cute way of saying Beauty and the Beast,
Okay,
right? So that
gotcha.
trope. But then I don't know. So I totally know what Beauty and the Beast is. It's basically, to use a romance trope, grumpy sunshine, right?
Hmm.
This girl turns this grump into a nice guy. Um, but I don't understand what that has to do with creating home and why home is so important. So that's where I'm having the disconnect. So when you introduce a trope or a touchstone like Beauty and the Beast, you kind of have to double down on that, not switch direction.
Mm.
So that I want to know more about Beauty and the Beast. I mean, she's a young, well, I don't know. I don't know if she's young. I'm picturing her young. And she's working in a care home. So is she older
Mm.
and she falls in love with one of the people there? Is she young, like I'm picturing her, and she falls in love with the grandson? What I want to know more about that. And
Mm.
maybe in talking about that, you can connect up this idea of home. But
Interesting.
I'm not clicking with it yet.
Gotcha. So what I hear you saying is that, do you like, when you heard Beast Meets Beauty, you're like, okay, I know what that is, and you
Mhm.
clicked into that, but then the writer pivoted and like
Yes.
started going in a different direction. You're like, wait, I thought I knew what this was, and now I'm confused.
Yes, that's exactly
Gotcha.
right. Yeah.
Yeah, nice. I actually know this book, and I can tell you it's not a romance at all.
Oh, boo.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Well, so if it's not a romance, then I wouldn't use Beauty and the Beast in your pitch,
Hmm.
because
Okay.
Beauty and the Beast is a romance, right? Um, I would find a different touchstone to use. So the instinct was right for pitching,
Okay.
was to use a touchstone. So that's great. But you have to make sure your touchstone matches your story. Unless it's a combo thing, and then you can do that Hollywood thing of Beauty and the Beast meets the Avengers or something.
Gotcha.
And then
Yeah, like
I'm like,
Beauty and the Beast
okay,
meets One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. You're like, okay, got that.
okay, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Beauty and the Beast is a romance, so I would still think it's some romance thing that's going on. Um, so it was the right instinct, just the wrong touchstone.
Gotcha. Okay. All right, here's the tell me more.
Okay.
Everyone does their best to meet the demands of their job. Patients suffer. Everyone meets time. Let me start over. Sorry, I'm botching this. Everyone, this is not with the writing. This is just my inability to read.
It's
Uh,
okay.
okay, here we go. Everyone does their best to meet the demands of their job. Patients suffer. Everyone meets time limits imposed on what is to be done. Patients suffer. And focuses on the patients, what they need, ask for. Employees suffer. And cares about everyone equally, wanting happiness for all. Employees suffer. Employees and Anne square off as she challenges current practices, treating patients and employees differently from before. Patients and employees suffer less. As the current owner of home works mightily to sell quickly, Anne's challenge to the system forces a choice. Administrations and employees begin to see what home could be, a coming together, a possible joining of forces. If they act, they may reverse time, resuscitate home, redeem its essence to protect, care for, and love all of those at home.
Okay. Okay, got it. So now I know what the book is about, so I'm clear on that. So I would watch. So when you repeat, I love repetition in pitching and in writing. I think
Hmm.
you get a cadence, it feels a little bit like poetry or a song. But the word suffering gets repeated a lot. So
Mm.
by the time you get to the hope, I'm really depressed.
Right.
So,
So much suffering in this book.
yes, I'm
Yeah.
thinking I don't want to read this.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, life is, this sounds just like a giant downer. So I understand you have to have struggle and suffering in every story because we
Mm.
have to see our characters triumph, but you don't want in your pitch to overemphasize the bad and leave out the good, unless it's a
Yeah.
tragedy, and then, go for it. And so the emotion of this, so I suffering, 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 and we don't get to the real emotion of the story until the very end. And I know
Mm.
why the author did that. It was to grab us, to hook us. But I think you want to talk about, spend a little less time about how bad things are and more about how Anne is changing the status quo, right?
Mm.
So because that's your emotional through line. And so that piece is what I would put in the first part of it, right?
Mm.
Like, I mean, this is not good, y'all. This is just off the top of my head, but it's like Anne works in a rundown care home where everyone is miserable, both the clients and the staff. She comes in like a breath of fresh air with new ideas and excitement to change things. No one thinks she can do it, but along the way, she changes everyone's lives and they come
Mm.
together as a family. I mean, that's too on the nose and it's too corny, but that's what I want to hear in the short pitch, the
Gotcha.
first part. And then
Yeah.
the tell me more part is going to double down on that emotional story and her struggle. So
Mm.
yes, you do need to include some struggle, but you don't want the whole thing to be suffer, 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 suffer. And then they all come together.
Maybe.
You want to end on a note. Will Anne be able to convince the clients and the staff that home can be this amazing place for everybody?
Mm.
Will she be able to change lives?
Yeah, yeah.
I end on
Yeah.
that kind of question, and then you might even get a second tell me more.
I
And
like that.
it's very emotional. I mean, I like this story a lot. I want to read it.
Yeah, it's an interesting journey where we've gone with the pitch from going from like, oh, this sounds like an interesting romance to now, oh no, we're in like a human drama. So
Yeah.
I hear what
So
you're saying about taking Anne's story up top so that who you're pitching to knows what's happening. Yeah.
yeah, and I can't think of a touchstone off the top of my head. I'll have to think about it. But there are definitely stories like this out there that you can reference if you want a touchstone. I can't think of one, but
That's why I said One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest because it's the only one I could think of off the top of my head. But this is not like that's a horror. Like, yeah, this is not the same. Yeah.
it could be. I don't know. Is Cider House Rules a good one?
I think
That's
that's
all.
about abortion.
Oh, I thought that was about a. I thought that was about an orphanage. Okay, well then never
I'm
mind.
pretty sure it's about maybe not. Maybe I'm completely wrong. I
All
think
right.
that was about abortion though.
Okay. Well, no,
Yeah.
then.
There was one called Batteries Not Included. Okay, so I have a question about this. So, Batteries Not Included is about a bunch of old people living together who find hope through aliens that are like little, I don't know, they're like the size of a Walkman.
Okay, I don't
They,
remember that movie at
this
all.
is, I'm dating myself. This is like the 80s. I was a kid.
Well,
This is like ET time.
yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah.
batteries not included. So the aliens show up and they help the old people kind of rally to find new life in order to like save their building from destruction. So here's my question for you. Batteries not included touches on the like, hey, we're finding hope, like the feeling, I think is the same.
Right.
Batteries not included is science fiction.
Yeah, I
Is
think
that
that
a
would,
good pull
it's
or a
gonna,
bad
no,
pull?
I think it's gonna confuse people.
Okay.
Oh, what about the last Marigold Hotel?
Yeah, that would be a good one.
That one might
Yeah.
work.
But what I hear you saying is that when you're looking for comps, genre is important.
Well, it's not always.
Okay.
I'm sorry, that's the worst answer ever.
No, no, it's fine. It's true. Like I know that's the answer I want. I want to know. Yeah.
Okay. In this case, because this is a story about, basically old people finding purpose,
Mm.
really.
Yeah.
Um, battery's not included because it has the science fiction element would confuse people.
It's going to be a distraction.
Yeah.
Like saying Beauty and the Beast.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
What if I said it's Beauty and the Beast meets battery not included? I'm just kidding. That doesn't help at all. Okay, let's do another one. I'm just drawing at random. Okay, we'll do this one. Uh, 1 minute. Here's your cocktail pitch. Lost meets Mr. and Mrs. Smith in a tropical island summer thriller called Killer Vacation. When a case of mistaken identity separates a young couple on vacation, they must face danger and their own dark fears to find each other and stop a ruthless crime lord from unleashing a terrifying new drug.
Oh, I love that. That's amazing.
What do you love about it?
Okay. So first of all, the title is amazing. Killer Vacation. That's great. I love it's super emotional. I get the place, I get the genre, I get the conflict
Hmm.
very, very quickly, and I'm on the edge of my seat. I want to know, tell me more. Um, so I don't have any notes for that one.
Nice.
Whoever did that, amazing job.
Nice. That's great.
Yeah.
Um, that's also, I wonder why it's lost. That's my question.
I imagine it was a plane crash, like they're stuck on the island
Okay.
accidentally, but I could be wrong.
And part of that probably is my connection to that show because when I think Lost, I think of something I don't understand. So that's when you said Lost, I was like, oh, it's a book I'm not going to understand. But that's just me personally.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
that's
is
my
true.
problem, not the problem of the pitch.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, tell me more. Brian is Clark Kent without the cape. Lu Lupe is Laura Croft with a chip on her shoulder. Their marriage is not going well. Neither is the cruise they took to try to repair their relationship. When Lupe is offered a side trip to a mysterious island, she jumps at the chance. But all is not as it seems. And while Lupe fights for survival in the jungle, Brian fights to take control of the ship and bring help to the island. Can their love for each other be salvaged? At, is it strong enough to defeat spies, snakes, and hurricanes? Killer Vacation is a 90,000 word standalone action thriller with strong characters and a touch of humor.
Okay. Stellar, stellar. First of all, I know exactly who the characters are. I love those touchstones. I love the stakes. And even though it's a thriller, this pitch is all about the emotion.
Nice.
Can they save each other? Is their marriage going to survive? So, because I love action movies, but they are not any fun if there's no emotional stakes.
Hmm.
When you see an action movie and you're kind of like, it's because there there was no emotional anything going on. It was just
Yeah,
lots of
yeah.
explosions.
That's
So
very cool.
great job. I want to read the book when it comes out.
All right.
Yeah.
Way to go. Um, that was a good one. Okay, let me close. Let me find the next one. Do. I'm quasi pulling these at random, which means I'm just doing them out of order. All right.
Wait, hold on 1 second. I thought my battery is
Oh
running
no.
low. Okay. I All right, that pitch was so good. I kicked my plug out.
That's right. The pitch was so good. Computers shut down so we could
Yeah.
all go read it. Okay.
Okay.
All right, new pitch. Here's the 1 minute. Tara, a 21-year-old Cajun. Ah, man. Sorry, not the pitch's problem. My problem.
That's okay.
It's me. Hi, I'm the problem. It's me. Tara, a 21-year-old cancer patient, has received the cure. It eradicates her cancer and then begins to change her. In searching for others like her, she discovers an ancient race is farming the planet to be their slaves. Tara and her fellow metahumans race to defeat Arin before she can summon her race and enslave the planet.
Okay. Super cool idea. I think so the last couple of sentences after she teams with the other
Hmm.
metahumans.
Yeah, Tara and her fellow metahumans race to defeat Orin before she can summon her race and enslave the planet.
Okay. So I would just, instead of naming the bad guy, because I don't know who the bad guy is, I would say Tara and the other metahumans race to to defeat the aliens before they, what is it? Before they,
Summon their race and enslave the planet.
okay, so you don't need that. They race to defeat the aliens
Gotcha.
and save the world.
Gotcha. Keep it simple.
Yep.
There, less details.
But I
Less
love the
details.
idea of cancer survivors being the heroes. That's super cool.
Fun. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, here's the tell me more. The,
Okay.
the cure for cancer has been discovered on ancient tablets. When applied, it not only cures the cancer, but for some, it evolves them. Tara, a 21-year-old Olympic hopeful, dies from the procedure and a few minutes later comes back to life. She begins to evolve. She looks like others, like her, and in doing so discovers the grid, a a Mad Max-esque underground fighting ring that uses metahumans. Tara discovers the person running the grid is Orin, a member of an ancient race that wants to enslave the world. Together with her mentor Toshi, an electric katana wielding samurai, they race to defeat Orin before she can summon her people.
Okay. So that is too much information, but it sounds super cool. So let's pare it down, okay? I think we don't need to know that the cancer cure was on the tablets and all
Mhm.
that. I mean, it's really neat, but we don't need to know it for this. Just it all we need to know is that this cure, we don't need to know that she dies and comes back. We
Mhm.
just need to know that she was dying, she got this cure, and it turned, she's evolving now into
Yeah,
something, to what we're calling a metahuman. And so something, this is corny, but something like to her horror, she discovers that the other cancer survivors
mm,
are fighting to the death in this underground cavern or whatever
gotcha.
it is.
Mad Max-esque underground fighting ring.
Okay. And there's something even more insidious going on here.
Mm,
Can she and her fellow combatants, stop this conspiracy and save the world?
interesting. Yeah, so there is a kind of like what I hear you saying is there's a, and this has happened in a couple of them, but there's like an author obsession with like the details, not just the details of the story, but like the cool names and the locations. And you're kind of stripping all of that out and be like, hey, just give me the like emotional beats. And that's
Yes.
what I want. Okay.
Yes, I think so. If possible, you want to have one character name in your cocktail pitch. If
Mm,
it's a romance, then it's, of course, you can have the couple's names, but you don't want to name a bunch of people, especially if it's a weird name like Orin or Calix from one of
yeah,
that other
yeah.
pitches. So you just need to talk about what's at stake.
Hmm.
And it's easy to want to explain all about the world and the concept. I understand that. You worked hard on it. You're excited. But people need less than you think to get excited about your story.
Hmm.
And it
Yeah.
and it just comes from practice, kind of figuring out what to strip down and what not to. And all of these are a great start because, like I said, it's easier to take things out than put them in. Um, But yes, you want to focus on the character and the emotion. We don't need a ton of world building.
Hmm. Okay. That's super helpful. All right, we got a couple more.
Okay.
Okay. This one's a tight one. Here's the cocktail pitch. My story is about a daughter having to decide if she's going to take on responsibility of caring for her estranged father who's been diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. The father meets a character with Down syndrome who, with her spunky, exuberant personality, challenges him and helps him to overcome his prejudices.
Okay. Again, really interesting story. Um, there's not enough of a through line here because
Hmm.
it starts off on the daughter and then it goes to the dad who's dying and the Down syndrome girl, which I think is cool. So which relationship am I rooting for? Is
Hmm.
it about the daughter and the father, or is about the father and this other girl.
Gotcha.
Um, and so pick one. And then if you're going to mention the other one, they need to be connected.
Hmm.
Because right
Okay.
now you've got two relationships that aren't connected in your pitch. And so it seems like they're like what I would say to my clients, it seems like there's two movies here. There's two books here
Hmm.
right now. So there, and it might all work together, but it's not connected in the pitch.
Gotcha. Okay, so I actually edited this book. I know this one. So
Okay.
let me try to recenter it and tell me if this fixes.
Okay.
Um, a daughter having to decide if she's going to take on the responsibility of caring for a estranged father who's been or let me rephrase that. A daughter struggles with whether or not she's going to take on the responsibility of caring for her estranged father who's been diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. As they debate where their relationship will land, the father meets a character with Down syndrome who, with her spunky, exuberant personality, challenges him to overcome his prejudices. The daughter involves herself in a charity organization that pushes her to see herself and the world differently. As they both change, they come together, healing their own relationship and, handling the issues of the past, something of that nature. Is that better?
Okay. That is better. So
Okay.
what I'm hearing, and since you know the property, tell me. So what I'm hearing is it's actually two separate stories with these
Hmm.
characters that are deciding whether they're going to come together, the father and the daughter. So
Yes.
they're separate for most of the story, and their experiences apart bring them together.
Yeah,
Is
they
that
kind of
right?
have these routine meetings where they fight.
Okay.
They keep trying to come together and it causes giant fights. And
Okay.
then they break apart and they come together. Then as they change over time, they realize they don't have to fight with each other.
Okay.
So like the B stories heal the characters so that by the time they get to the end of the book, they're in a different place and they
Okay.
they both change and kind of grow together, if that
All
makes sense.
right. I love all of that. I think this author, they took the stripping down too much to heart. So I
Too
mean,
much
this
stripping
is
down.
like,
Too
right,
funny.
this is like what I said about it depends about the touchstone. So it's
Yeah.
just you have to, everything has nuance. This is really an art, not a science.
Hmm.
Um, so the the actual story is super emotional. And so I would talk about, it's not that she's decide, I would switch the words a little bit. It's not that she's
Okay.
deciding whether to help him or not. It's that she's struggling to help him.
Mm.
And all
Yeah.
they do is fight.
Yeah.
And then in the meantime, to kind of make like, so action, this is a life thing, right? Action always makes you feel better. So it's something about in the meantime, because she can't make any headway with her dad, she starts volunteering with this other organization to feel like she's doing something. And then his, in the meantime, is he has this builds this fun, unexpected friendship with this young woman with Down syndrome, and those experiences help, like you said, turn them into better people, so they can come together in the end and heal their father-daughter relationship.
Yeah, and it's an interesting, I like how you're getting to the emotional heart of it there. It's an interest, so two observations. One, this is a lit fic book. So it kind of defies genre convention in a lot of ways. Like
Yeah.
when I worked with the author, we talked a lot about how this is kind of women's fiction because the lead character her relationships do kind of dominate the story, but you have a side it does share space with the father's narrative, which is kind of pulls it out of women's fiction. So the lead protagonist, if it were just the lead protagonist story, she is a 40 something mother whose children have moved out of the house and who is looking for meaning. And her estranged father comes down that he has cancer and has to move into a home next to the hospital that she lives at. And so the question is like, why is she not helping take care of him?
Right.
Because they have this terrible past. So, but there's actually a third storyline here that's not being mentioned in the pitch. And I'm bringing it up because I'm curious how
Yeah.
you do with this. So the person with Down syndrome Sorry, that's hard. My sister has Downs, so it's not Downs anymore. My sister has Down syndrome, and I grew up forever calling it Downs, and it's not
Oh,
Downs anymore, and it trips me up every time.
I didn't
So
know that.
yeah, so the character with Down syndrome also has a plot line about moving out of home. She is a vehicle in the story, meaning she is a protagonist in the story. It's kind of three plot lines that all weave together
It sounds super
to bring,
cool.
it's a cool book.
Yeah.
Yeah, the author did a great job with it. It's a cool book. Um,
Well,
when
I
you have that kind
understand
of
why
like,
she picked two because it is a
yeah,
little hard to pitch.
it's tough because it's like, a woman, looking for meaning in a charity organization, a man refusing to heal old wounds from the past, and then a Downs girl trying to move away from home, trying to have a job and move away from home. And they all three kind of collide with each other,
Hmm.
is how the book works.
Yeah, that is tough. I think I would keep it. I think the author's instinct was right to center it on the father and the daughter
Mhm.
because that just when you're hearing it, you're like, oh, father-daughter story. Like it's
Yeah, yeah,
easier to
yeah.
connect. And then I hear about the woman with Down syndrome, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I can't wait to get to know that character. And oh, I bet she's gonna be great for this crabby old dude, you know?
Yeah.
Like I'm excited to hear more about her, but I don't think for the
You
cocktail
don't need
pitch, I
her.
need to know about her thing.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. And I think that's true. I think that's because if I'm thinking about like as an editor, when we're working on the chapters, if you were doing like A, B, C, you kind of get like A being the mother character, though sorry, the daughter character, B being the father, and C being the person with Down syndrome. You kind of get like A, B, A, B, C, A, B, A, B, C, A, B, A, B, C. So the Downs girl, Nancy, I'm doing it again. The woman with Down syndrome appears like every 4 or 5 chapters with
Yeah,
her own chapter.
and
Yeah.
yes, and if it was a movie, it would be the same. She would be the C plot,
Mhm.
but very important and integral. But yeah,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that so I think the instinct was right, was to make her this sparkly, interesting character, but not talk about her story
Okay.
in the cocktail pitch. I think if you get into a longer discussion with someone, um, that I would tell the author to be prepared to talk about her,
Hmm.
but not in your initial cocktail pitch and to tell me more.
Yeah. It is funny. It is one of those cases where, just to encourage other authors, this author is working on a sequel novel right now while they try to sell this one. And the sequel is the woman with Down syndrome, because the character's so fascinating. You're like, I have to
Yeah,
have more of that character. Yeah, anyway.
that's
So
amazing.
just bragging
Yeah.
on the author and what she did with the book. Okay, here's her tell me more. In
Okay.
the end, in the end, a spiritual event brings these three stubborn, independent individuals together and makes them realize they're better together as one.
Okay. I love all of that except a spiritual event. I don't know what a spiritual event is. And a
Hmm.
spiritual event means different things to different people. If you're a Christian, it could mean you have a vision of Jesus. If you're um, a New Age person, it could mean you go to a drum circle. Like I don't, I
Hmm.
think that's not specific enough. And I don't think you need it. I think you can say, I mean, the cliched thing is events ensue, right? You need
Hmm.
something kind of like that. You don't need that specific thing of what the thing is.
Okay.
As our story progresses, as our three characters grow and change, as our three characters get closer together, what something like that, just a phrase like that.
Okay. I have a follow-up question. Now I'm just going to talk on behalf of the author. Sorry,
Sure.
author.
No,
You know who
that's
you are.
good.
Yeah. If you can send me an email if you're mad about this. So this is a question the author and I have talked about a lot with this book. The spiritual event is a very Christian event in that
Okay.
Jesus is actively involved in
All right. I'm down.
someone dies and goes to heaven and meets Jesus and comes back to life. And that like really impacts the change moment in the plot.
Cool.
This author has struggled with that because they're nervous about the book being labeled Christian literature.
Okay, well, a couple
And that's why
thoughts.
they're using the phrase spiritual event. I know why they're
So,
using the phrase spiritual event because they
okay.
don't want it to be labeled Christian lit.
Okay, so instead of spiritual event, I would say a near-death experience.
Okay.
Everyone, most, not everyone, but 90% of people know what that means.
Yeah, yeah.
Someone dies, has some kind of experience on the other side and comes back.
Hmm.
Um, okay, so full disclosure, I am a Christian, so I think having Jesus in your book is really cool. um, the it sounds like this person is going the traditional publishing route because you said they're trying to sell it.
They are. Yeah.
Okay. So just and this, I'm not being Debbie Downer. This is just
No,
perspective
no. Yeah.
here. Um, I always say this about film people, of film executives, but it's the same about publishing executives and editors. They don't have a lot of imagination. Now, I know that seems counterintuitive because they work on stories, but they don't.
Yeah.
They can't see, they take everything at face value.
Hmm.
So if you have a pivotal moment in your book where Jesus is a character, um, it will be considered a Christian book, mainly because the publishing industry is very atheist. They're not, they they're not pro-Christian. They're not interested in that. They don't publish, they're not looking for those books. They don't tell those kinds of stories. So I so you just have to decide.
Yeah.
You just have to, instead of being nervous, you got to lean into it. The
Yeah.
Christian market is huge,
It's ginormous.
huge.
Yeah.
Now it's not so huge in the, there are plenty of Christian publishers, but where people really make money is self-publishing in the Christian marketplace.
Hmm.
It's huge. And the homeschool people are huge, and they're always looking for books for their kids to read. And their kids are fifth graders reading, adult level books.
Yeah.
So you have a huge audience out there.
Yeah.
So you just
Especially if
have,
you tap into that homeschool crowd because they
yes,
read like crazy.
they
Yeah.
spend thousands, those families spend thousands of dollars a year
Yeah.
on books,
My
thousands.
my nieces are very angry at me because all of my books are R-rated. My brother is a pastor and very big in the homeschool movement. And my nieces are always very angry at me because all of my books are R-rated and they're not allowed to read them. So they're always like, "Will you please just write one that's not?" I'm like, "Maybe someday." But yeah,
I
anyway,
think
just
that's
to say,
amazing that they want
yeah.
to read your stuff, though.
Yeah, they're
That's
fun. They actually show up in the Dialogue Doctor community every once in a while when we do an 80 day, like write a book in 80 days.
Oh,
Like
cool.
one of them is always usually in there. She's great. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Um, so I think anyway, so that's my 2 cents. Instead of being afraid, lean into it. And also the Christian marketplace loves feel-good books. And this
Hmm.
sounds like such an amazing
It's
story
a
with three
huge
great
feel-good ending.
characters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So
That's great. Anything else you want to say about it? I didn't mean to cut you off.
nope.
Sorry. Okay. All right. We got two more and we have 10 minutes. So we got it. Pitch number 8. It doesn't matter to anybody listening what the number is because these are all out of order. But the next pitch. Messenger is a fast-paced domestic thriller that follows a 30-year-old vet tech whose world is turned upside down by a chance encounter with an old friend. When an act of sabotage threatens the future of the clinic, the vet tech uncovers dark truths stemming from a forgotten childhood past. If you're looking for a quick dose of emotional drama and gasp moments, Messenger is the book for you.
All right. I love this. I love the last 2 sentences are great. It goes back to that kind of trope thing.
Hmm,
All right. If I'm in the mood for a thriller and I hear that or I read it on the back of a book, I'm like, okay, this is what I'm reading next.
nice.
Um, the it needs a tiny bit more detail, just a little bit of adjustment. So, can you read it
Yeah.
again? Okay.
Messenger is a fast-paced domestic thriller that follows a 30-year-old vet tech whose world is turned upside down by a chance encounter with an old friend. When an act of sabotage threatens the future of the clinic, the vet tech uncovers dark truths stemming from a forgotten childhood pact.
Okay. So that so I this is you I love all of that.
Hmm.
I just need some of the ideas to be connected more. So I the chance encounter with the childhood friend and the childhood pact, I get those are connected.
Yeah.
How is the chance encounter with the childhood friend connected to
The
clinic,
sabotage.
the
Yeah.
clinic? That I need just a little connective tissue there.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. That makes sense.
But um the prose of this is amazing. It's got the tone of the book, which is
Nice.
so hard to do in a short pitch like this. So kudos. I am, even though I'm a little confused, I'm still on the edge of my seat. I'm an
Hmm.
animal lover, so I'm like, vet tech, there's going to be cute dogs in this. So that's also good.
Not if it's a dark thriller. They're gonna
I
kill
that
those
well,
dogs.
that's
Yeah.
true. Anyway, so just tiny bit of, it's missing a tiny bit of connective tissue. You either need to rework a sentence or two or add a sentence.
Okay.
Is that enough
Yeah, that's
feedback?
helpful.
Does that make
Yeah.
sense? Okay.
100%. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Here's the tell me more.
Okay.
Messenger blends the domestic thriller genre with contemporary women's fiction. It touches on the themes of friendship and empowerment. The story unfolds through the eyes of Sammy, the passive vet tech, Rain, her old friend, and Zach, her boyfriend. Through Rain, the readers discovers Rain's agenda is to befriend Sammy and destroy her life. Through Zach, the readers discovered they aren't on the journey they thought they were on.
Okay. A little too much information here. So the first
Okay.
part, I needed a tiny bit more. This, we want to roll it back. So I understand the urge to kind of tell us who the vehicle characters are,
Yeah.
but we don't care. We don't need to know. So we already know it's the vet tech story because that's what the cocktail pitch was all about.
Hmm.
So you want to double down on that here.
Okay.
So you don't want to tell the whole story here. And when you say that the old friend's whole thing is to destroy the vet tech,
Hmm.
I don't need to read the book. So
Gotcha.
instead, you want to hint at that this friend has some agenda that we're going to discover along the way that is wreaking havoc with our vet tech's life,
Hmm. Okay.
right?
Yeah.
So we know she's causing trouble, but we don't know what it is. Maybe she could have a lot of things going on. It couldn't just be to destroy her, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so and then leave out the boyfriend. We don't care
Okay.
about him. We care about the two friends because that's what you introduced in the beginning, and that is all. It's interesting. I mean, the idea of someone from your past showing up and then kind of screwing up your life is scary.
Yeah. Yeah.
And everyone can relate to that because we all have people that we didn't know very well that we wouldn't really want to start talking to again, or
Hmm.
people that have really hurt us that we don't want to see again. So,
Yeah. Okay. Let's do the last one. We got five
okay.
minutes left before you and I have to go to a support team meeting. So,
Oh, okay.
dialogue doctor support team meeting, not a, yeah. All right. That was a weird phrase. Okay. Here's the 1 minute. This portal science fiction novel is dark matter meets ransom. How far would you go, and how much of yourself would you sacrifice to save someone you love? Neuroscientist Nora Hawkins believes she's discovered the cure to her twin brother's progressive memory loss until her experiment fails. Then her brother Noah vanishes before her eyes, taken by a scientist with an impossible ability to control minds. Desperate to save her twin, follows only to find herself trapped on a parallel Earth, arrested before she can begin her search. To rescue her brother, she must unlock her own hidden abilities and find allies in a world that views her as a threat. But with every step she takes, she risks becoming just like the man who stole her brother. If saving Noah means breaking everything she believes in, where will she draw the line?
Okay. I love the cliffhanger. That's amazing. I got a little bit lost because there's a lot of information
Mm,
here about the
yeah.
plot. So I like the idea of she's trying, first of all, love trying to save your brother's life. I've got two brothers, so super emotional, and that things go wrong. So
Hmm.
you what you need is that she's trying to save her brother's life. She opens the portal or whatever you said,
Yeah.
and something goes really wrong and her brother disappears.
So we don't need
Now,
the information about another scientist with magic powers and
no, and we don't need that
yeah.
she goes to the other Earth and she gets arrested. We just need the experiment goes wrong, the brother disappears, and this is corny, but something better than this. But now she's got to race against time to
Yeah.
find her brother and save the universe or whatever it is,
Yeah. Yeah.
something like that.
Okay.
Um, but great cliffhanger and great start. It's just the middle had too much stuff in it.
Gotcha. Okay. You ready for the tell me more?
Yep.
No one has ever questioned where Nora Hawkins belongs. She's a scientist, a problem solver, and a responsible twin. When her experiment fails and her brother Noah is abducted by a man who controls minds, the world stops making sense. The technology that takes Nora to a parallel Earth doesn't exist until it does, and the enhanced abilities she develops aren't real until they are. Arrested on a parallel Earth and desperate to rescue her brother, Nora is thrown into a world of political manipulation, hidden agendas, and a growing rebellion against those who wield power over others' minds. To save Nora, to save Noah, she must convince the right people to trust her, even as she struggles to trust herself. The more she taps into her own buried abilities, the more she realizes the truth. She's not just here to rescue her brother, she's part of something much bigger. But every choice she makes brings her closer to the line she swore she'd never cross. If she wants to save Noah, she may have to use the power she despises, risking turning herself into something she fears.
Okay. Great prose. It's just a little, it's too much. So, um, okay. So like the third sentence from the end, can you read that to me
Yeah.
again?
The more she taps into her own buried abilities, the more she realizes the truth. She's not just here to rescue her brother, she's part of something bigger.
Okay. So that's where you need to stop. You don't need anything after that.
Nice.
That's a dun dun dun,
Yeah.
right? I don't need anything more. And then at the top,
No one has ever questioned where Nora Hawkins belongs. She's a scientist, a problem solver, and a responsible twin. But when her experiment fails and her brother Noah is abducted by a man who can control minds, the world stops making sense.
I would cut all of that.
Okay. Why
And
would you
then,
cut all of that?
um, well, we don't need to know that much about Nora because we're focusing on her trying to save her brother. We
Okay.
don't need to know she's like a together kind of gal, right?
Yeah.
And then we don't need the kidnap thing. We already learned that he disappeared.
Okay.
So we don't need that. So I would cut all of that. So
Okay.
read the rest of it, please.
Sorry, I lost where I was.
Oh no, that's okay.
The technology that takes Noah to a parallel Earth doesn't exist until it does. And the enhanced abilities she develops aren't real until they are.
I would cut all that.
Okay.
Because that's also confusing about they aren't and then they are. I understand why the author wrote that way because it's about how screwed up her experience is. Like all of a sudden, all these things that didn't exist do exist.
Yeah.
But we don't need it. It's great prose, but too much
Too
information.
much information. Okay,
Yeah.
let me read the last part again.
Okay.
Arrested on a parallel Earth and desperate to rescue her brother, Nora is thrown into a world of political manipulation, hidden agendas, and a growing rebellion against those who wield power over others' minds.
Okay. So I love all that except cut um after growing rebellion, cut against those who will power on others'
On others'
minds.
minds.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, keep going.
To save Noah, she must convince the right people to trust her, even if she struggles to trust herself. The more she taps into her buried abilities, the more she realizes the truth. She's not just here to rescue her brother, she's part of something much bigger.
Love it.
Okay, so the final
Okay.
paragraph is arrested on a parallel Earth and desperate to rescue her brother, Nora is thrown into a world of political manipulation, hidden agendas, and a growing rebellion. To save Noah, she must convince the right people to trust her, even as she struggles to trust herself. The more she taps into her own buried abilities, the more she realizes the truth. She's not just here to rescue her brother, she's part of something much bigger.
Yeah, you see how tight that is?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I love that you've like pared it down to like just one paragraph about the lead character.
Yeah, and again, all everything that you read was amazing. The prose was great, but it was just too much.
Yeah,
And this is really punchy and makes me want to say, hit the buy button or say, tell me the
nice.
whole story or whatever. Yeah, it's
Awesome.
great. I can't wait to read that one.
Okay. Well, Lindsay, that's all the pitches we got.
Okay.
Um,
Well, this was
where
so
can
much
people find you
fun.
and work with you?
You can find me and book time to work with me at thepitchmaster.com. And what Jeff and I did tonight is what it's like working with me. You can pitch stuff verbally. People give stuff to me that I read. I get pitches, scripts, books, articles, pitches to investors, all kinds of crazy things that I give
Nice.
feedback on, but it works just like this. And as you can tell, I love it and I love story and I love hearing everyone's stories because they're always so fun and so good. So good luck to everyone who I heard today. I think they're great and
Awesome.
keep on writing.
Yeah, and keep us posted. If you sell something that we worked on the pitch for, tell us. Let us know.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I always tell people I love good news. So please
Yeah.
do.
Yep. All right. I'm gonna hit stop and we can talk a little bit more.
Okay.
Maybe. I'm gonna hit stop. I lied. I'm not gonna hit stop. There it is.